And I will start. Good evening, everyone. Please give us a few minutes and we'll start soon. Thank you so much for joining us. Once we start the webinar, it would be really great if you put in your questions in the Q&A box. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have. It's also a discussion. We are happy to take any queries, anything that you may want to talk about. All right. Pramath, should we wait for a few more minutes or should we begin?
I'm okay to start because we shouldn't keep people who've joined on time waiting, but
sure,
we can.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining this evening. Pramath, I'm sure you all know Pramath, but I'll give him a brief introduction. Pramath is the founding Dean of IST, is also one of the chairman of the Board of Trustees for Ashoka. And of course, he's the Dean for the Harappa School of Leadership, as well as the founder of Harappa. And when we set up the Harappa School of Leadership and put out our signature program, which is the Accelerated Management Program, Pramath had some ideas around why and how this would be relevant in a market like India. So we will be talking a little about the AMP advantage, about MBAs, about management, and about how to sort of, shape your career if you're 2 or 3 or 4 years down the line and you're looking for something new to do now and you're wondering how to go about it or how to pivot. So Pramath, over to you, and then I'll start with some questions.
Sure. I think the premise of the AMP program at the Harappa School of Leadership is that the only way for you to go from a career, a job, company, or function that you've been working in, and the assumption is that post your bachelor's degree, you've actually ended up working in a particular industry or a particular function or a particular kind of company. The only way to go from that to something new, something different, is to go do an MBA. And I think that is still true, that if you want to make a big change or to take yourself to a different level, then you must go do an MBA and change the trajectory, change the area that you're in. But not everybody can do an MBA, in that, one, you may be tied to a job which you can't leave. Sometimes MBA can be out of reach in terms of the financial commitment that it needs. Sometimes there's a geographical constraint about where you have to live, and therefore can't move cities. You may be married, you may have commitments to family or just other commitments. And you may not find it easy to get into a top school because of the entrance tests and scores and so on that are very exam-based. And there's no point in doing an MBA from a not so great institution, because at the end of the day, it doesn't help you make that pivot if you're not in one of the better institutions in the country. There are many people who do an MBA just to put it on their resumes, but it doesn't do much for them. So if you want a meaningful MBA, then it's hard to access one for all the reasons I described. And for such a person who wants an alternative, I think what we are offering is a convenient, affordable, but very high quality alternative. And it over time gets you to the same outcome in terms of making a move, shifting, pivoting, getting into a different trajectory, into a new orbit. And I can obviously we'll get a chance to talk more about why that happens, what this program is, but that's what the AMP was created for, and that's what we are very proud to have enabled already for more than 100 students across our 3 cohorts.
That's interesting. Now, Pramath, we have 100 students. So there are 100 people who've taken a chance or a bet on this program. And sometimes, you just said it and it just hit me. I think that's an amazing, in less than, in 6 months, right? Our third cohort.
Of course, I always say that, Seema, that, listen, it took us almost 6 years to launch ISB, and we had 128 students in the first class. The Young India Fellowship, which led to the creation of Ashoka, had 57 students in its first class. The Vedika Scholars Program had 30-odd scholars in its first program. And that's the advantage of going online, that you have a very different proposition, and you have a different proposition to a much larger group of folks, and you're not limited by, 1 cohort a year. We've been able to start cohorts as students have come, and we've already done 3 cohorts. So I think it's also a great model for education. And, it doesn't preclude you from tomorrow going and get an MBA. So for example, even in the Vedika Scholars Program or the Young India Fellowship Program, several students at some point then decide that they do want a formal 1-year or 2-year MBA, and they go do that. So you're just much better prepared for that if you go through a program like this.
So Pramath, your book is out recently, and your book also talks, you've done case studies in the book, and you've talked to many people who've sort of either pivoted, changed their careers, or have, at some point, what made them get to where they are today. So is there like a common thread, in a young professional's life that requires them to sort of, upscale or do things differently now in this generation than, it used to be done before?
Yes, Seema, one common thing is that young professionals are still ambitious. They want to be successful. To be successful, they want to grow, they want to progress, they want bigger, better jobs, they want to earn bigger salaries, they want to make more money. And so that hasn't changed. But what has happened is that the way to success has changed. And there have been several disruptions, as you and I know. You are a good example of that. I'm also a good example of that. And not just disruption, but new opportunities. And those opportunities are constantly coming our way, coming the young people's way. So what I mean by that is that in our day and age, you worked in a particular sector, you worked for a few years, you developed expertise, and then you stayed with that for most of your life or the rest of your life. Certainly in our parents' generation, one job, one career, one function, one company, one sector, your entire life. And remember, that's not too long ago. That's about 30, 40 years ago. To now, where there's a new area of work, there's a new sector, there's a new industry, there's a new kind of role that is being born every year, every few months, every few years. And so there's just a proliferation of opportunities. And whether you like it or not, you will either the work that you do will get disrupted because it will change, the requirements will change. And so you have to reskill yourself, or you have to get out of it and do something else. Or there will be newer, better, more exciting, more fun opportunities that you will want to go and give yourself a chance to work in, experience, just feel the challenge and excitement of. So you're constantly moving. And in the old model, where you had one career, you now have 5, 6, 10, 12 careers in your life.
So essentially what you're saying is that a program like AMP or any other online program, because oftentimes if you have to change careers, not just jobs, upskill, reskill, understand things, you can't always take 1 year off and go, or 2 years off and go and study on a campus, right? Sometimes you need to do this while you're working, while you're employed, and you need that little push or that little extra, and that's where AMP comes in, or is there more to this?
Yes, I think the pivot, the change requires programs like this to upskill yourself. But I think AMP is a little bit bigger than a particular job or a particular sector or a particular change, because it gives you the foundational skills to succeed in multiple such shifts. So we are not training you for the next thing or the thing after that, but you are training you for everything. And that's the beauty of how AMP has been conceived. I'm convinced that there are certain core skills that you need regardless of the changes in the area that you're working in, regardless of new opportunities. And that, if you're strong on, if that is part of your skill set and your toolkit, then you can withstand any disruptions that might upend your career or your job or your industry, as well as it positions you well to go after new opportunities for which you were never educated or trained, which may be completely fresh and different from anything you've done before. So I think that's the beauty of this program. At least I firmly believe that we are giving you the essentials, the fundamental, the core of what you need to succeed in almost anything that can be thrown your way. And of course, you will need to do some top-up skills as things change. Even I'm trying to learn, what does ChatGPT really mean for a business? And no amount of pre-training would have enabled me to do that. But the ability to see that this is something new and different, that it is not a threat, but also an opportunity, and the fact that I need to learn about it and I can learn about it, is what the AMP does, I hope.
So right off the bat, we have a question here from Ankit Sahai, who wants to know what are the various areas on which AMP focuses?
So sometimes I forget all the areas, but help me out.
I'll remind you.
I think the first is just the core business management area, which has for many, many decades been defined as accounting, finance, marketing, strategy, operations, and HR. And we cover all of those because you still need that. That's core in understanding how a business, a for-profit business, works. And that has been true for the last 100 years. What we have done to the core is added 3 very relevant disciplines which have become core or are becoming essential today: data science, product management, and digital marketing. In fact, the 3 are actually interlinked, but they are also 3 essentials of a triad of today's complete manager in a business. So those are the 4 areas, the business and the 3 specialized areas. And then we throw in a very generous dose of leadership skills and core Harappa skills. Our whole premise at Harappa is that it's not the technical skills, but the soft skills, the leadership skills, the social, behavioral, cognitive skills that make a difference to your career, that make a difference between who's somebody who starts out and then becomes a manager and then goes on to be a leader and then a senior leader. The skills that carry you through are what we call the Harappa skills. We often refer to them as thrive skills, the skills that help you thrive at work. And so in the leadership module, we have a strong dose of what we stand for and teach at Harappa. And that becomes the fifth and very crucial element of the program. Now, there's a sixth element.
I was just going to remind you because you always forget that one.
Yes, I take it for granted. The sixth element is the element of career counseling, career coaching, career guidance, which comes in the form of getting your story right about who you are, what are your strengths, what can you bring to the table, a resume, which we help you prepare, mentoring about what might be possible industries, companies, sectors to go in, and finally, interview prep in terms of mock interviews and interactions and helping you get better and better, making you practice doing mocks. And of course, then the overall effort in helping you get placed. So our careers office will identify opportunities, approach companies on your behalf and make a best efforts basis, make an attempt to help you make the career switch that you're looking for. So that's the sixth element. And I don't know if I've forgotten the seventh one. Seema, you can remind.
No, you haven't. Thank you. Also, I think somebody was asking how long is the program. It's a 6-month long program. It's live online, mostly on weekends. We do take 1 weeknight also for classes. And then, of course, a little bit more for your career office and your personal counseling, etc. Pramath, you've gone through 3 batches. In fact, the 3rd one just started. Any key learnings on what you've seen and in the students who come, and you teach some sessions, especially leadership. So anything that you've sort of noticed or felt, or you feel like this is something I didn't think about, but this is what AMP has sort of brought in.
Yeah, several things, Seema. I think that I've been amazed at the quality of the students. I think so far, we haven't had a student who hasn't had a very strong set of experiences and backgrounds from which they can build from. And so I think I've been very impressed with the core capabilities and experiences of students and also their drive and aspiration and their commitment to do well. I sensed that, but now that I've seen it and I've experienced it, I'm very, very excited about the future of this program. I have to say that I've been pleasantly surprised by the diversity of the group. And I'm not just saying gender, and we do have a fairly balanced group with a large number of women in the class, but more than that, people coming from just very, very different backgrounds, whether geographic backgrounds, where they grew up, where they live, but sectoral backgrounds and companies, types of work they've been doing and so on. So I think that's been very, again, expected, but the extent to which we are getting the quality of students and the diversity of students has actually pleasantly surprised me. One other interesting learning has been that, I think I was speaking about this at a webinar the other day, or at least I was speaking at the orientation of the 3rd cohort and giving them this tip, that I see students listening to what we teach in class and then going and applying those ideas at their and then coming back and talking about how and why it worked or didn't work, and then bringing that into the classroom discussion. So I think that's been great to see. Another thing that has been great to see, Seema, is the fact that physical interaction still matters, but even one physical interaction makes such a huge difference. We've been doing meetups in Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, getting folks who you only get to see online together. We've been doing graduation ceremony. We have a second one coming up. And each of these physical interactions are things that our students really crave for. I think they're already developing very strong bonds online, which is great because obviously they can't do in person and they can only frequently interact if the program is online. But throwing in that one physical interaction makes all the difference. It almost feels like a regular in-person class if they've just met once. At least I feel that way about them, because you see them online all the time anyway, but if you've also seen them physically, and if it's just once in 6 months, roughly, at least I'm seeing them twice in 6 months physically, I think that's great. Great for me, great for them, and great for all of us. We can really connect and bond despite the fact that we are not seeing each other physically every day in a full-time program. So I'm very excited about some of these things that I've seen.
So Pramath, when online learning, how easy is it for people who haven't sort of, done this before? Now we are at the third batch. And plus, of course, Harappa has always been an online sort of program. What is it that sort of, differentiates, or what is it that makes it different to come and study online? And what are the qualities, or what are the things that you need to stay focused in an online program?
You can probably help me out here, but I have found that from our standpoint, what we try to do is engage students online by just bringing very high quality faculty.
Oh, yes.
And this has been my big learning throughout my life and everything I've built and done in education, that ultimately it doesn't matter what you teach. It matters in the sense that you do have a curriculum and you want to teach people certain subjects, but what people remember, what students get inspired by, what creates aha moments for students are really inspiring faculty members. And I think that you and I make sure, Seema, that the curation of who teaches on this program, the classroom is sacrosanct. And who gets to teach, who gets to spend time in the classroom is something that we are very particular about. And you and I know that in cases where we've picked people and they've not done a great job, we've actually been pretty tough on them to say, this is not on, right? You're not honestly good enough for our students. So either you make improvements or change, or we'll have to have somebody else teach on your behalf next time. I don't mean to sound that we are unfair or that we are harsh, but I do think that if you're going to engage folks online, then if it is convenient for the best students to come, then it's even more convenient for best faculty to come. And why would you not just have best faculty? Why do you even have to compromise? So I think that mindset is something that is driving us. And I know that we do a lot of other things, Seema, around making our courses interesting, the curriculum interesting, doing project-based learning. We have a case study that our students work on through the course of the 6 months. We didn't talk about that, but that's a very important element of the curriculum. So you can do all these bells and whistles, and we do certainly have them. But I think if you didn't have the core high-quality faculty, then you can't engage. You get bored. You almost need to have FOMO every time you say, oh my God, another class online in the evening, I'm tired. But you say, no, this is XYZ who's teaching, and I can't miss this class. And there's some magic to watching him or her being in the class and watching them rather than watching a recording, which of course you can always do in case you miss it. But I think that's what really creates the engagement.
I think we have a very interesting person with us on the webinar. And I don't know if you know this, but I have Ankit Sahai, who's just written to say that he completed the 25 long courses that were initially offered at Harappa Education. And
Yeah, I think I remember Ankit when he posted this, and we were very proud of him for having done that. Ankit, and you should know, Ankit, that Seema was the one who created those 25 courses.
So he wants to know how this program will be different for him.
Of course, very different, Ankit, right? Most of the overlap with the 25 courses you did is only going to be in the leadership bit. And there also we've evolved a lot from the 25 courses that you did. And this, you did 25 courses, but this leadership program is actually, the 25 courses are just a new version of the 25 courses is just almost like reading material for that course.
Yeah.
There's a lot more in terms of lectures, sessions. I teach on that part of the course. When you did the 25 courses, you only saw my recorded lectures. Now you'll have my live lectures, and not just me, but we have half a dozen other people who teach on that leg of the program. But so you'll actually, now that I'm talking through it, very little overlap. In terms of overlap, I think the business stuff doesn't overlap. The digital marketing, the data science, the product management stuff doesn't overlap. And there's some overlap, like I said, in the leadership bit, which is a very small overlap. Almost, much less than even half, probably less than a third. I think Tolu Wani has been asking repeatedly about the fees. There's nothing hidden here, right?
I'm trying to convert it into dollars to tell him how much it is.
No, it's roughly $3,000, Seema. Right? Roughly, it's probably a little bit more than that, but yeah, roughly $3,000.
Okay, so Pramath, also I just wanted to know, is this a program that, in our experience, is it a program that works only for people, young professionals, or is it also a program that can be for someone who has 10, 12 years of experience and is now sort of looking sort of see whether they want to do something different with their life? Is this program going to equip them as well?
Of course. I think there's no limits to learning, and there's no limits to when you can take advantage of what we have to offer. We, as you know, have had folks who are fairly senior, late 30s and so on, who have taken our program and they've got 15 years of experience. So yeah, the short answer is it's relevant to everyone. And there's many elements in the program that even if you're in your 40s or 50s, this will add a lot of value and will really help you as you look for the opportunity to do just something different, something new, something better.
Okay, so please keep the questions coming. Meanwhile, Pramath, when you decided to put the leadership track in this program, what was really the thought behind it? I mean, I've never heard of management programs. I mean, they'll have some form of organizational leadership or something, but the leadership track that was thought and put through in this, and the fact that it runs throughout the program, all the other tracks are, of shorter duration, but this one is like the entire duration. What was the thought behind that?
The thought behind is there are three things. One is, as I said before, there are a whole set of course and foundational skills that matter much more in life than the technical skills, which you can learn and acquire when you need. It's almost like just in time. You give yourself a injection or a shot, and you suddenly know something about a programming language or data science or digital marketing. But the ability to make those shifts, the ability to be resilient against changes, the ability to learn new things, the ability to win the trust of your teams, your peers, your bosses, and just exercise leadership is something that nobody really teaches you properly. So we've gone the extra mile, and which is my second point, that while everybody recognizes that this is important, nobody really teaches it, and it's tough to teach. It's not a one size fits all in that model. Most people have believed over the years that it's only by doing that you can learn this stuff. You can't be taught this stuff. But I've been involved in leadership development personally for the last 30 years, and I feel that there is an opportunity to, even if I can't teach, we attempt to teach, and I think we do a good job of it. But even if you can't teach, if you can make people aware that these are things that are important, very important, they are almost like make or break when it comes to your career. Even if you make people aware, I think the job is more than half done. And that's what we are trying to do at an as early a stage in your career, understanding that how you give and receive feedback is important, that it's a core skill. How you think creatively and inculcate the habit of being constantly curious is an important skill. To have a growth mindset is an important skill. So in a way, we've, at least based on my own personal experiences, we put together a leadership model that's not the be-all and end-all model, but a fairly robust model that works. And I think we're pretty distinctive in the way we deliver that to young professionals.
Okay, we have a question here, says,
Yeah.
does AMP offer opportunities to network with management professionals? Moreover, I heard AMP holding graduation ceremony. Was it only for the first batch, founding batch, or every batch?
Every batch. That's an easy one to answer. So yes, we do that. We did do it only for the founding batch so far, but one for the second batch is coming up. I think the date
That's
is
right. In the middle of June.
Yeah. And then, yeah, we will have it for every cohort. I think it's important to reward folks and to recognize folks for the effort and the time.
And we've also started making sure that there is an inter-batch, basically the alumni network of AMP grows. So it's not just the batch that will graduate, the batch that is all just come in, and the batch that graduated before are also invited to come and meet each other so that we have a much stronger alumni. You know, at the end of the day, AMP should not be like just cohort 1 and cohort 2. They should be the alumni of AMP. So they should connect with each other, be available for, like in any campus, right?
Absolutely. In fact, more than any campus, because most campuses are, you know, those things happen by osmosis and organically. We make an extra effort to build that because we are new. And again, because this is something that I've learned from the institutions I've built, that initially you are small, not too many people know about you. So the strength really is in the numbers. And as you grow, you keep people together, and then it becomes, like I said, you know, we have 100 people already who've done this program. On the first question about does it offer opportunities to network with management professionals? Yes, it does. Because a lot of our faculty, our teachers, our counselors, guest speakers who will be coming in are all management professionals. So you do get a chance to interact with them. And over a period of time, as the alumni group grows, as Seema was talking about, and you continue to remain in touch with your faculty and to start to contribute and get more engaged back in the program as an alumni, I think that networking relationship will grow over time.
So, Pramath, at any point, do you feel like AMP will become, a program that might sort of, add some credits to it, or maybe becomes a campus program? Is that, a thought at any point?
I think that it can evolve in those ways. It can, I think getting people credits is probably a easy one, but difficult one to do in India, but I can probably get people international credits over time. I do think there's utility in keeping it the way it is and maybe starting other programs which are variations of it. But I think this format, this duration, this content does seem to work. I don't know if you agree or not. And we can continue to enhance it. Yeah, we can continue to enhance it, improve it, obviously evolve it. And that's again a big advantage of doing stuff online, that you can make changes on the fly. You don't have to say, oh my God, now I've stuck to this, and how do I remove this, and how do I add something? So I think for all those reasons, it's going to be a program that is going to continuously evolve and improve. And I'm very excited about keeping it in the form that it is, and then maybe doing other programs around it.
So, Pramath, if you were to change one thing after the three batches now, is any thoughts on something that you may add or subtract from the program, or any advice for us as we go on?
Well, I think that the project-based learning part is something that we can strengthen, and we are doing that, because I think the learning by doing in such programs is very powerful. We do have a case study, and that case studies like this, simulations like this, that take time to settle down and time to get ingrained in the curriculum. But we are working on that, and I'm excited about that possibility.
Okay, so I'll ask one more time if anyone has any other questions they'd like to ask. We are currently in our third batch. We just started this weekend. If anyone's considering, we are very, very early into the program. And if you're interested, please do get in touch with our team and see if, this is a program that makes sense for you. And we'd be happy to discuss. Finally, Pramath, if I were to ask you, are management degrees here to sort of, will they change and evolve even in bigger MBA courses? Is that something that, as someone who's launched programs and someone who runs educational institutions, anything that you feel like, the face of education in the coming 5 or 6 years, is it going to change dramatically, knowing what we know about how AI is coming in, how job markets are changing so regularly? Jobs which were relevant till 2 days, till 2 years ago are no longer sort of, So, I mean, do you think in all of this scenario, is it a program like AMP which helps you to sort of learn about different things becomes more relevant? Because, you no longer can call your, no longer be a specialist only. Sometimes having general skills or having multiple skills is something that's becoming more and more relevant.
I think so, Seema. I do think that there will be some areas where require specialist skills, and some people will want to just need to do that to get those jobs. But I think the jobs over the next 5-10 years are going to look very different from how they are today. The kinds of things you can do at work, with work, for customers, for others, are going to radically shift with all of this natural language processing and AI that is coming. And I don't think this is flavor of the month, right? People often say that the latest such shift that happened in our world was the advent of the app on a cell phone. You and I have lived that. life, right? 20 years ago, there was a comparatively clunky BlackBerry with a small screen, black and white. No question of color, forget the kind of graphics and, the vivid Netflix quality stuff that you have. And now we just live off apps. I mean, what were apps? When apps first came out, I couldn't get it. I was like, why do I need this stuff? I don't need this stuff. I can manage without it. Now you can't live without an app. I walk into a airport, I'm sort of doing my whatever Digi Yatra. Remember, you and I were talking about it. I saw that there was Digi Yatra in Pune airport yesterday. You have no option but to have the app and learn how to have the app and how do you connect that app to your ID and how every time you scan the boarding pass that you are sent by the airline to. Now suddenly somebody I know is going to design an app where the boarding pass automatically gets uploaded into your DigiYatra, right? I don't know why somebody has not done that, but it's going to happen. Remember that little thing that happens when you get an SMS on your phone with the OTP? For a long time, you used to have to remember the OTP to go back. If there's a 6-digit OTP, I never remember 3 plus 3. So I have to 4. You read 3 plus 3 and then you go back and you forget. So I've discovered that if I do 2, 2, 2, then I'm able to remember it. But now I don't even have to remember it because it automatically pops up and goes in. These are things that people are designing because we now have apps on our mobile phone. So I think that's the fundamental shift that is happening. But at the same time, it's not like a lot has changed in how a restaurant is run. They have to deliver, but they still have to buy vegetables, meats, grains, put them together, have a menu, So physical businesses are not going to change. And for that, you will still need traditional education and so on. But I think there's a whole host of new jobs and different types of jobs that are going to get created that you're going to have to prepare for. And to that extent, the AMP program really prepares you. I often use the example of media folks, Seema. I was 15 years ago when I was at Anand Bazar Patrika, the real journalists like you would say, no, I'm not going to put a blog out there. That's all riffraff. The real readers are the people who read my op-ed page. I want to be on the op-ed page. And what's this 140-word tweet? I'm not a tweeter. It's a bird. I'm not a bird. And today, every morning I get a WhatsApp message from Rajdeep Sardesai, which is like his 4 big stories from yesterday, including a video clip, which is a YouTube link which you can press with a little bit of a graphic in there. Plus, he writes traditional articles in Hindustan Times or wherever, or India Today. Plus, he's on live television. So the journalists are still around. But the journalists of today are very, very, very different from what they were 15 years ago. And only some have made the transition. Others have just faded into oblivion.
We'll have this discussion at another point. But interesting, there's a question here from someone who wants to know, Wharton has started an online MBA. Yes, sure. Many institutions are. And sorry, Pramath, you're on.
One day, maybe we will do as well.
And someone also wanted to understand, in comparison to campuses, does AMP have clubs and learner-led societies? Do AMP learners participate in business study competitions? I'll take the first one. I think just a little bit to say that it's an online program only on weekends. We're actually asking for 12 to 14 hours of your time. So I don't, because you're working professionals, many of the people, it's very difficult for them to take out time for other things. Having said that, the cohort 1 and cohort 2 actually started their own little, clubs where they led something called like cohort 1 did a learner speak series, where they used to set a day and they all used to come together to talk about difficulties or problems or challenges or good things that were happening. And it was a student-led initiative, learner-led initiative. Cohort 2 actually launched a newsletter, did their own newsletter. And they wanted to sort of, they got people to write about it. And they also run something called a speaker series where they talk, different people from different sectors. If someone's from the agriculture sector, they talk about their job. Someone is from the, data science. So before the data science course started, they actually did a little sort of session with each other. So we encourage that and we enable that. But case study competitions and all, no, they're not any formally we don't organize. We did organize a contest, by the way, which was related to ChatGPT and what it does. But other than that, specifically, do we sort of organize contests? No, but do we encourage our students to participate in different things? Yes. Pramath, anything you'd like to add here?
No, I think you've answered the first part. And the second part, I think he's talking about, or he or she is talking about these business case study competitions that others organize. I'm not aware, but nothing stops our students from participating in those.
All right. So we're almost at this thing. As I said, I put some information in the chat. If you want to know more about the program, about the course, about other things, please do reach out to us. But if you don't have any other questions, I suppose we can end a little early, Pramath. Is that okay?
Yes, Seema, I think we should wrap up. There's a raging storm outside in Delhi, so I think we are being told to wrap up. But jokes apart, I think it's been great. We've had a good discussion, and I encourage folks who are interested to write to us, reach out to us, and recommend our program to others who might be in your networks who would also be interested. Thank you very much, Seema. Thank you, everyone, for joining this evening, and good night.
Thank you so much. Okay.